Alongside Eric Kane, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price for the Rocky Top Roundtable. Guys, Tennessee and Virginia kick it off on Saturday at high noon. This is a Tennessee team that has as much momentum as a program as it's had in over a decade.
Yeah, you feel like this is a healthy team and a healthy program, and I don't mean just from a physical health standpoint. I mean the culture in the program, everything that's involved there. It doesn't feel like last year was a fluke. That doesn't mean they're going to replicate record-wise what they did last year. But, Rob, it certainly feels like there is a firm footing and foundation for this program.
Yeah,
right now.
I would use the phrase upward trajectory. And that may not mean 10 wins, 11 wins, but I think the days of 4-8, 5-7, losing record in the SEC, worrying about losing to Vanderbilt, I think that's over. I just think it's Josh Heupel has this program on solid footing. And another thing that, not to get sidetracked, but you've done a good job of extrapolating. It goes all the way to the top. Danny White, Dante Plowman. There's a lot of reasons that the things feel the way they do right now.
All right, when you look at this matchup, especially specifically with Tennessee, it's all going to start and stop with number 7, the guy that pulls the trigger, and that's Joe Milton. Eric, has had a great offseason, is saying all the right things, and has done everything the right way from December when Hendon Hooker, got hurt and he had to finish out the regular season to now. Now it's time to go and be the guy for a full season.
Yeah, Joe Milton, again, he's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. Josh Heupel mentioned a couple weeks ago in camp, he wasn't even sure if Joe Milton's thrown an interception so far in camp, and so that speaks to the level of play that he's playing at right now. But listen to the way his teammates talk about him, the other assistant coaches talk about him. Hey, this is Joe Milton's team. When Hendon Hooker went down, Joey Halsey said, hey, he took up, he stepped up, and it's been him ever since. And so I think for all of us, the 4 of us included, it's what does Joe look like from week 1 to week 2 to week 3? But the way he played last year in his minimal role and then the last 2 games of the season, there's a lot to be excited about this year.
Yeah, I just think he's throwing the ball extremely well. And again, the more you're in this system, the more comfortable that you are. And I think he's gotten more comfortable. And again, I give a lot of credit to his relationship with Hendon Hooker. I think he made Hendon Hooker a much better football player, and I think Hendon Hooker has prepared him and helped him to prepare for this moment to be a much better football player. I think the two work hand in hand.
A lot of maturity. I think there's a lot of maturity on offense in general. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, you got a guy like Jacob Warren who has been really, really good. When he's been able to stay healthy. You got Jabari Small and Jalen Wright at the tailback spot, Rob. And again, some units on the offensive side of the ball that have productive veterans.
Just keep going. Cooper Mays, who's, I'm sure we'll talk about the injury in a little bit, but has played as much football as anybody. You go out wide. Brew McCoy, just got here last year, but tons of experience in college football. And I like the makeup of that offense. Yeah, there's question marks about the offensive line, some guys who are stepping into bigger roles at receiver, but starting with Milton, going to Mays, to the tailbacks, I think that you have to like the middle makeup of that group.
Offensive line-wise, Eric, obviously that's going to be the biggest question mark on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, Virginia brings back every defensive lineman. They're pretty good at the point of attack. What can Tennessee fans expect out of the offensive line Saturday, or is this something we just don't know yet?
Yeah, it's going to be a good challenge. We kind of spoke on this on the Volquest podcast, and Chico Bennett, if he plays, he's a dangerous guy. They've got good presence in the interior. They bring back the entire the entire front 7 minus the leading tackler from a season ago at linebacker. So I expect some games up front, some delayed blitzes, some loops, some turns, some twists. It'll be a good challenge for this offensive line. That there's going to be a bit of a rotation at left guard. There's going to be a couple of right tackles playing. We won't get a true sense of what this line can look like, obviously, because Cooper Mays probably won't play in week 1. But it's going to be a good challenge right out of the gate, and it sounds like the offensive line, albeit the questions, they've improved and they've gotten better as camp has gone on leading into the season.
You're looking at the defense here, Brent. This is a defense that's deeper than it was a year ago, and they hope to get home to the quarterback more frequently.
Well, and it's a defense that's excited about where they are because they've got depth, they've got competition across the board. Now the question is going to be who replaces Byron Young in terms of getting to the quarterback. But they have a lot of bodies to work with. You know, we've talked about rotation ad nauseum. How much do they really rotate in the secondary? We know Brian Jean-Marie made it very clear early this week. He's rotating at linebacker. He did it a year ago without any linebackers. He sure as heck going to do it this year when he's got some real depth at that linebacker position. So I think Arian Carter you're going to see a lot. I think Keenan Peely you're going to see a lot. Obviously, you've got Aaron Beasley who's a mainstay there. I like them at linebacker a lot. Rodney Garner likes where he's at with his defensive line. They're not a finished product. But if that KG veteran's pretty happy with where his group is overall, you got to feel pretty good about the front seven of this defense.
It's almost like when Nick Saban smiles, when Rodney Garner's not, gnashing teeth. That should work.
There's been some gnashing of the teeth, just not as much gnashing of the
Well,
teeth.
again, less gnashing should tell you all you need to know about how he feels about that group. Virginia's a team of unknowns, especially on the offensive side of the ball. New quarterback, Muskett comes over from Monmouth. I think there's just some things with Tony Elliott's group you just don't know about, and you won't know about till Saturday, Rob.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they were the worst offense in the ACC last year with a 3-year starter at quarterback. That guy's gone. They bring in a transfer from a lower classification. They lose their top 4 wideouts. I feel like this is a really good matchup for a Tennessee defense that we feel like is going to be improved, but it's going to be fine in its way. I think it stacks up really well for that side of the ball.
Brian Jean-Marie spoke earlier this week about, and so did Amari Thomas, and so did Aaron Beasley earlier this week. A lot of eye candy. Yeah, there's going to be some new personnel and everything, but they're still running Tony Elliott's offense. A lot of misdirection, going to try to get out to the perimeter, try to outflank you. So that's going to be the challenge for Tennessee to play disciplined football, play inside out, and allow this defense to go out there and maybe put on a show. A lot of new personnel for Virginia, so it'll be intriguing to see exactly what their plan of attack is. But I think it's a great opportunity, week 1, to see what this Tennessee defense is that we all expect to take a step in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Virginia offense is just fascinating. I mean, there were moments last year where they looked pretty good, and then they would have 3 penalties in a row, where they would just do some things to really shoot themselves in the foot. But they're so different personnel-wise. Where are they? They struggled their culture last year. I mean, Tony Elliott talked about it all year long up until the tragedy up there that ended their season about how not everybody bought in. They had a hard time establishing their culture. Where is that in year 2? Austin, I think, is a big question mark. Where not just the Virginia offense, but maybe the Virginia program in general, but certainly an offense that was a stunning struggle last year for a lot of people. Most people felt like the defense would be bad, but here comes the offensive guru Tony Elliott. They were going to score a lot of points. It was quite the opposite between those 2 sides of the ball.
Tennessee's a big favorite in this football game. Everybody expects Tennessee to win rather handily. Who's the one player that no one's talking about now that everybody will be talking about or not talking about as much that people will be talking about come Sunday morning?
Oh, I mean, I think, if the game goes the right way, it's going to be a freshman. I think the most important player that nobody talks about is how does Ollie Lane play up front.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody Sunday morning is going to be going, all right, and it's Ollie Lane. But if they're going to do what they want to do offensively, he's got to play well to center position. He's one of my key guys for this game.
I mean, we all are so in the middle of it. I don't know that there's anybody that we haven't talked about or that the people that are hardcore Volquest people haven't talked about. But I'll throw Colin McCastles in there. I mean, I think we all expect for him to, do well. Or McCallum, excuse me. Screw that up all season long. But had a great fall camp. Halsley talked really, really glowingly about him last week, but he's got to come through. I mean, it can't just be, a little bit. He's got to be a hit from the start.
I think Ollie Lane's a great one that you pointed out on the offensive line. One, Brent, that you mentioned earlier this week, Cam Selden, especially if the game goes the way it's supposed to, but also in the return game. But let's go to the defensive backfield. All eyes on the offensive line, but also defensive backfield. How many guys play? What's that rotation look like? Cornerback's got to be better this year. What does a new presence like Gabe Judy-Lawley present? How much will he play along with Danico Slaughter and some of those other guys? I'll be watching the cornerbacks and a newcomer, Gabe Judy-Lawley, on Saturday for Virginia.
I'm going to roll with the guy Hubbs has been touting the last few weeks, Keenan Peely. I think that's the guy people are going, whoa.
Well, when you talk about groups in general, everybody may be talking about the transfers.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee looks like they have hit. You talked about McCollin Castles, Keenan Peely,
Gabe Judy-Lawley,
Dante Thornton. John Campbell's going to start left
Yeah.
tackle. That looks like they have hit really well on the transfers, which can change a lot of the dynamics of this football team in a good way heading throughout this season.
We're off and running with game week coverage. The return of the Rocky Top Roundtable is here. We'll see you next week right here to preview the Austin Peay game.